Good evening and welcome to the Monday, January 8th, 2024 Maplewood City Council Manager Workshop. City Manager Coleman, would you do the roll call for us, please?
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Villavicencio. Here. Councilmember Juneman.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
I'm here as well.
Councilmember Lee is not with us this evening.
Council members, would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juneman. The motion to approve our agenda tonight. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have no unfinished business. We do have two items for new business tonight. The first one is the Birch Run Shopping Center in the North End Zoning District. We're going to have a discussion on that. But first, Mr. Martin, you have a presentation for us.
Mayor and Council, I just have a couple minutes to introduce the item, and then a team representing the ownership group, Arizona Partners, is present. They'll walk through their presentation tonight, highlighting the work that they would like to be considered by the city for their site. So Birch Run, a 26-acre parcel at 1715 Beam Avenue, is a 300,000 square foot commercial shopping center. As mentioned, they are looking at some additional projects, development lots on that site. They would be for single users and 2 single-story buildings. What's at kind of conflict then with the city code as the city developed its vision for the North End and ultimately adopted the North End zoning district. That zoning district prohibits new 1-story buildings. The code does grant some pretty good latitude to the design board and the city council to provide site design exemptions to those standards. But it is important to the ownership group to have this conversation with the council tonight to, again, highlight the work that they have been doing in the last year. I'm sure every council member has been able to see the improvements that have been occurring at the shopping center and highlight their vision, where they're trying to take the center and what these 2 development lots would ultimately look like and work with the center itself. And they want to get council's feedback, buy-in before they get too far down that road on working with any development applications or requests to the city. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to the Arizona Partner team, and I believe with Kristen to go through their presentation.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Moan. I work at Wilkes Architects in Hopkins, and I am here on behalf of our team and Arizona Partners. So Birch Run Station is on Beam Avenue. The team represented here tonight, Kirk and Bob, are from Arizona Partners themselves.
Can I just ask you to stop one moment? We're having some technical difficulty. We don't have any, and we have screens up here that we all can see because those screens are pretty far away. So sorry. We'll just give you a restart, but then we need screens that we can look at up here.
It is in your packet.
It is, but it's always nice to see it on the screen as we're going.
Yes, it is.
You know, we'll let them take care of the technical difficulty and hope that these screens will all of a sudden start working. Chief, is yours working over there?
Yeah, the bottom right, they totally are.
Yeah.
The bottom right, if you lift it up, there should be a bar button.
There's a little light on.
It's sitting underneath it.
Oh, I think I just turned mine on. It was orange now.
I just turned it off.
There, okay, so now it's on.
Sorry, just one moment.
No,
It says input signal not found. Check the video cable and video source.
I think maybe I got unplugged underneath.
That's really unfair.
And this is our first meeting of the year, so.
I have to make sure I'm looking.
And it's a Monday.
Technology fairy's been in here, and whoever it is isn't very nice. Go ahead. You don't know what you're doing.
Mike's just on her phone.
I think we should power off.
We did on the monitors. They're powered into our system.
Are you hoping our pictures of all the things?
Oh, it's on that one.
These are fine.
Oh, weird. It's working on those.
These are okay.
It says check the video cable and video source.
Turn that one on that has the red light on.
Let's see if I, because it's all connected to the same inputs, that's so strange.
Up like this.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to start all over? We'll give you a redo.
What if I don't say the same thing?
Whichever, wherever you would like to start.
Okay. Okay, so we're at Bean Avenue. Okay. Now you have pictures. So Kirk and Bob are the nice-looking gentlemen behind me, from Arizona Partners. Brian McCool is from the Real Estate and Construction Group, and the chair of Frederickson and Byron's Real Estate, sorry. And then they have hired Wilkes Architects to help them along this from the design standpoint. We have a lot of experience with one of the tenants that are hopefully going into one of these spots. So the Birch Run Shopping Center, all of the information is up there. I'm sure you guys are all more knowing about it than even me. So they've done a lot of work over there in the last few years. And in 2023, they completed a rehab of that mall over there. $3.5 million was the rehab cost. They did a lot of exterior remodel, new facades, landscaping, stuff like that. Repaired and replaced 70% of the parking lot, and updated and replaced existing monument signage. One thing to note is that 100% of all the existing tenants with leases expiring up until December 2024 have been renewed. So approximately 33,000 square feet of that mall is going to continue with extended leases. Just some notes on the recent leasing activity. How long have you guys owned this property? 2 years. 2 years, okay. Famous Footwear, shoe department, Five Below, Joanne, and a nail salon are all new leases since taking it over. And then pending leases and deals with leases of intent, including the Starbucks, is one of the outlets we're gonna talk about. So why this project and why now? The ownership does desire to continue to improve the property. Activation of existing excess parking, it's all there, it's all sitting. They do have commitments with existing tenants that do restrict some of the multi-story buildings that are being requested from your North End vision. Proposed out parcels do align. They're very compatible and cohesive with the buildings that are already there from a use standpoint. There's a lot of community around that have expressed the want and need for some of the options we're looking at to put in there. And then obviously the addition of those amenities within the out parcels is consistent with the ultimate goal of the North End vision plan, minus the parts that we are unable to meet. So these are two of the proposed site plans. These are just proposed in this manner. There is still, discussion. The outlot one on the bottom, the green one, which is pending for a Starbucks. This is one of their layouts. They have many layouts, so some of those things are still up in the air as far as how that would lay out on the site if approved. And then the other outlot, again, a restaurant with a drive-through, going after the drive-throughs on both properties. So again, the outlot one, it is in a letter of intent stage. They are going back and forth with Starbucks on the potential use of this property. One thing with Starbucks, we all love their coffee, but they have very high requirements for stacking for cars. Currently, they're running about 19 cars they request to have the room for stacking, somewhere between a Chipotle and a Chick-fil-A, I suppose. But they do request and require to have that. What is shown up there does not show 19 cars, but again, it is very much just in the proposed stage at this point. Starbucks does have very high-end building materials. They have beautiful buildings, outdoor seating, a lot of landscaping, the things that do line up with your North End vision plan. Any questions up until now? Okay, then I'll keep talking fast. Just some conceptual elevations, again, showing the materials that they use. This is a very standard building. They have some that are a little less desirable and some that have a lot higher end materials to them. And then we come to our key questions. Really just looking for support and or comments, any questions that you guys have. And then if there are aspects of the proposed site plan that we can review to attempt and align better with your North End vision plan.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I want to thank you all for investing in rehabbing the shopping mall. It looks so much better, and I have to say, you can now drive in the parking lot and not think that you're going to, actually lose your car. And so that really is quite a change. It looks really nice. I thought you did a nice job with the exteriors. I think it looks really good. And I think a lot of people, they've certainly been telling me about it. And the plantings, I think you've really done a nice job of reinvesting in our community. I appreciate that you're here talking to us. The North End Vision Plan, I was here. I don't believe I was the mayor at the time. I was on the city council. And the vision plan is really something that our community put together to cast a vision on what that might look like in that area, because that's a really important area for our community, trying to look at the mall, and it's so close to the hospital, and what can we do to revitalize that area. Now, with that being said, it's a vision plan. We aren't looking for, well, let me just come right out and say that I think that this is a very good use of the property that you have. I think that putting in 2 freestanding buildings in that parking lot, it makes sense because it goes along with the kind of the one level that you have already, and the fact that you would be using high-end exteriors so that it really looks good. I think it's a great idea. We're not looking for perfection in terms of perfectly following the vision plan. It's great to have that as a roadmap, but certainly I don't believe that we should be holding out for perfection when we have something that is I think a real asset to that area. And I've lived here a very long time, and I've always thought, wow, that parking lot is such a wasted space. It is so big. And so to have it better used to bring more people in, I think that will benefit absolutely everybody. So that's my thought on it. I know we've got everyone else but wants to talk too, but I can't. Who is next? Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you say that for the coffee, it was like a middle of their possible options for building? You said there's some lesser models and some higher end.
Yep, they do multiple variations. Oh, sorry. Yes, they do multiple variations of buildings. Most of their newer buildings are going in with the more higher end materials, brick, wood, siding, we can call it, stone, stuff like that.
So what if a community says they want higher end?
If they want higher than that,
No, higher than they've been offered.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Higher than has been offered.
I guess the Starbucks, their big thing is selling coffee, right? I have seen many buildings that go in with requirements from the city, and then they just kind of take what those requirements are and they suit their building to it.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Who is next? Councilmember Villavicencio.
First, I want to give my appreciation for the improvements. Not only does it look so much better, but it's so much safer. I live nearby, so I'm a pedestrian up and around there all the time and have a family. And so I guess the two things that I want to say is just making sure that we maintain the landscaping that does exist there. That's really important to our community. And then just being mindful of the pedestrian population, because there's a lot of senior buildings in and near the area. And I know they're excited about this. So I think just making sure that the sidewalks are wide enough and make sense in coordination to the buildings that will be put in possibly. So thank you.
I just want to follow up on Councilmember Villavicencio, because as part of the North End Vision, we talked about walkability. There is a proposed market rate apartment building that has been approved by the city already at the old Myth site. And so our part of the vision was this concept of walkability, that people could live there and walk over to Starbucks or walk over to a restaurant. So that's something that I want to see, is walkability. I think that gets people moving. You're right, there's a lot of senior buildings right there so that we have safe walkways for people. I think that's going to be really important, and I'd like to see that incorporated into all of this. Councilmember Cave.
I'm just going to echo on the words of my fellow council members. I think what you've done there is excellent. It's really improved the neighborhood. I know we had a vision plan, and that's what you're here for. And like you've heard, the council knows that there's a vision, but that in my vision, I never even envisioned the two outbuildings that you're putting in there. And that's where we are adaptable to things. And that, I think that's a brilliant use of the space, because, you made it all look nice. And like the mayor said, the parking lot's so huge. It's almost like too big for what's there. So I think you guys, your vision of what you're presenting is exactly what we need. And I appreciate it.
I don't know that you need anything else. You've heard from four of us.
You leave while we're ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Bye.
We're all pretty familiar with that area, and I see this as something that would really be a huge asset for everybody in our city and for the other businesses there. I think it will be a really welcome addition. Councilmember Juniman.
I was just thinking, people will be thrilled to see something in that parking lot besides the great cavern of a parking lot. And I think your sprucing up of what's already there is already attracting people. They're looking. They're like, wow. So I really think whatever you would put in there would probably gain from what you've already done in a big way.
And I'm excited to see what the big soft goods store is going to be. I've heard rumors, but I'm hoping they're true.
Thank you very much. We will look forward to that. Okay, moving on our agenda. The next item is the East Metro Public Safety Training Facility pre-design update. Chief Mondor, this is your topic.
Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you. The East Metro Public Safety Training Facility was built in 2016, and I think it's apropos that we were just talking about vision. When the facility was built, it was really built around the premise that it would be a fire department training facility. And we've realized more over the past 5 years than ever that there's a huge need for all of public safety and all of first responders to be able to train one another. And at the prompting of Mayor Abrams and some of our elected officials, we feel like we need to take this to the next level. The public safety training facility has been a destination for fire departments across the metropolitan area into Wisconsin. During the last legislative session, the city received $75,000 for pre-design of a facility so that we can be adequately prepared to pursue further bonding money to expand the site. Following your approval, we entered into an agreement with Leo A. Daly, and they have been working with staff and other partners from other communities to develop the pre-design and needs assessment. And we're at a point in the project where we wanted to get council feedback as we're preparing for the next legislative session, which will begin on February 12th. So I have Todd Levold and his team from Leo A. Daly, who we've been working with for the past several months, to provide a project update, and then Chief Beardeman and I and the team will be available for any questions that you might have after the presentation. Todd?
Well, we don't have Starbucks coffee to bring today, but we do have some good conversations about public safety training that we wanted to share with you. So thank you for having us today. Let me see if I can figure out the clicker here first. Is it not working? Yeah. Oh. Okay, is it just in presentation mode? It won't?
Yeah, it goes quiet on the presentation.
Okay, we'll go with this. So again, thank you for having us here today. We just want to give you a background on what we've been talking about with staff, talk about how we developed the program, a little bit about the existing site, how we developed some concepts, and then talk about preliminary cost estimates, both from a construction standpoint and an operation standpoint, and then a little bit about the schedule. As Chief Mondor had mentioned, it's been a very successful facility up to this date, but adding fire and EMS, or excuse me, police and EMS to this project would really make this a destination that a lot of other agencies could not match. There's not a facility in town that would be able to bring all three of those entities together. So we're excited to share that with you. As he had mentioned, quite a few facilities already use this all over the whole metro area, scattered out through 5 counties even. So it's been quite a successful facility, and we look to add to this and improve it even further and expand the offerings. To date, we've met on a kickoff meeting to discuss the goals and the mission of the facility. Spent a couple meetings talking about how or what that program and the scope of work might be to enhance the mission of the project, and then about 3 meetings talking about the concept of the project and different ways to figure this site out for that, as well as really at the heart of a pre-design project is the section in the pre-design, and we spent a couple meetings really honing in on what that meant for this project, as well as meeting with the planning department about the nearby wetlands. So at the heart of this project is really about trying to take and be more holistic, supporting public safety responders. And we want to start with the idea that, again, expanding this facility to include all agencies in the first response, and really trying to understand how you can cross-train disciplines between the disciplines, and that's really a missing piece within this type of training environment. We also wanted to create situations that recognize what real-world situations might be, so that they can train and better be prepared for actual situations. The other thing that we looked at was also public safety. Police, fire has been going through recruitment and retention issues, and this can be a beacon for that in your community, and also just a great thing to help help maintain the staff that you do have by training them. And people recognize that this is a great place to work when they have those resources. Also, with this facility, the idea is to also have a better representation of the workforce, both men, women, people of minority and whatnot, that this can help to bring people together for this type of work. Two more items that were kind of the focus of what we were trying to think about as we talked. We're also just improving the public perception of public safety. Both, police has taken a hit in the world in the last few years, and the idea of putting out a force that is well-trained goes a long ways into creating that better perception. And not only that from an indirect standpoint, but having the ability to have a public shooting range available to your residents gets the people in the door understanding what actual police folks go through. And then lastly, and I think this is most importantly, understanding that we're trying to support the individual from not only the tactical aspect of their job, but also the physical aspects of things, and most importantly, the mental part of the job, and understanding how social workers can be part of that process, and how different aspects of that can be supported through this project. It's kind of a long story there, but I think that's really crucial to the rest of what we looked at.
So my name is Jeff Swinkowski. I'm the architect on the project here. As Todd had mentioned, one of those things that we get when we bring in EMS as well as law enforcement into what is already a very successful fire training facility is we get all these nice overlaps where we can not only do training, cross-disciplinary training, but we also get this highlighted area in the middle here, which is really those are the issues that affect all first responders. It doesn't necessarily matter what your role is within a department or which department you're in. You experience stressors in certain ways, and so this is where we wanted to build this idea of holistic first responder support, where we're not just giving them sort of the skills to do the job, but also supporting them, by, essentially giving them the skills to deal with the traumas that they have to endure as part of the job, and also providing those outlets for physical training and conditioning as well. Yeah. And so one of the things that we wanted to sort of look through here, and this is essentially just a scenario that we've presented, where the current approach might involve, any given scenario, there might be, in this example, we've got 7 sort of core skills here. They could be anything at this point. Those are very much present in the training environment now, but they're present in a kind of fractured and siloed way where your training in one thing might be months away from your training in another thing. And what we are actively pursuing as sort of the design effort here is when we're able to provide more realistic representations of sort of real life, we get the extra stuff that happens between those core skills, where you're not just training in de-escalation, you're training in de-escalation when you've got a heart rate that's up there and you've got adrenaline pumping, so we're more properly replicating real life situations.
Mm-hmm. So what that means as far as, we had a lot of discussions about that, and we've had a lot of experience recently with quite a few projects, most specifically North Metro Range in Maple Grove, Cottage Grove, the Hero Center, and a college in North Carolina that takes our experiences with the experience that we've learned here and tried to take those and understand what this building could be. And so I just want to quickly run through the components of the building, additional classroom space. It's not only about lectures, but having the ability to have a large enough space to bring in a national speaker, all the way down to having role playing happen in these classrooms or small group discussions. So flexibility in classroom training was important. The use of technology and VR. It's improving rapidly. There's some exciting technologies out on the horizon that are very close to taking shape and being really exciting as well. But having that space for these types of facility, or for that type of training, is also really important. Physical aspects and response to resistance training oftentimes can happen in a gymnasium where they throw down a few mats, and that can be a dangerous thing. So we wanted to make sure that we were looking at a dedicated mats room that has full protections and allows a safe training. A lot of training accidents happen in these types of environments. And then we wanted to talk about with everyone what does it exactly mean to be reality-based training. That's kind of what Jeff was talking about. So we talked a long time about having a facility that maybe has an indoor streetscape that has ability to change with once you enter that door. Beyond that door, there's multiple options for flexibility for training spaces, but has a little bit of a realism to it. It's inside the facility, so you can do this during the winter months instead of outside. Having the flexibility, having the ability to bring in not only police, but EMS and fire trucks, and understanding what that means. And again, whether that's for search and rescue reasons, having scenarios for EMS, search and rescue again, whether smoking out a building, having visibility under scrutiny, that type of training. But that also extends to the exterior of the building as well. And we talked about how can the building itself become like a streetscape, as in the example in the middle project where you enter the facility from the outside, from your car, so you're trying to simulate a real-life example. To the example on the left where there's some outbuildings that are residential in nature and create a streetscape and some intersections for driving skills, and having a driving pad to represent, having the space to do driving training and a multitude of exercises. As well on the right, sometimes there's just areas where you need to have training environments outside, and you can create some noise. We want to make sure that we're blocking those from the neighboring areas so that there's not a commotion that's created. So these are all conversations that we had during our sessions. The range, can't forget the range, is also something we talked about what type of range is wanted here and needed, and what size. Several conversations about that. Looking at right now a two-range scenario where we have a longer 50-yard range that has retrievers and stalls, like you'd see in the bottom left picture image there, that could be open for the public, available for the law enforcement. More of a static type of shooting, but still allow vehicles inside for that tactical type of training, but also then having a shorter range that is a wider range, having more ability for, as we talked to all the law enforcement agencies, they really wanted width in their range to help them recreate scenarios that are more real life and allow flexibility for movement. And then lastly, there's some support
Councilman
spaces.
McCabe has a question.
Yes.
Hi, I just have a question on the last slide. Is that something you're proposing to do below ground then, from the pictures?
No, they're
Okay.
just, they tend to be an enclosed space because
Okay.
of, we don't want any stray bullets
Yeah.
leaving facilities at all, so they don't have windows usually. The lighting can go from near dark for training in that scenario to full bright. So
Okay.
they're usually above ground, yes.
Okay.
Since we're talking about the range, soundproofing is going to be, critical. I'm sure you've had plenty of discussions about soundproofing so that this is not something that neighbors nearby will be able to hear.
Typically, these buildings are built out of precast concrete, which is our tilted up panels that have a decent amount of insulation in them. If we're in an area where there's real concern, we'll put a concrete topping on the roof as well to keep all that sound in. And typically, that popping sound is not heard from a very far distance. You have to be pretty close to the building to hear it, so
Okay.
it should be manageable in this situation. The ranges have some support spaces that are absolutely necessary as well, gun cleaning spaces, armors repair spaces, ammo storage and things like that. So we wanted to talk through that with them as well. So what does that all mean? When we added it all up, we got a program, a base building project of 55,000 square feet. And that included the range, the reality-based training spaces, classrooms, some spaces for health and wellness. Again, the reality-based training spaces. So that was 55,000 square feet. An exterior driving pad was something that was of importance too, to make sure that there was the ability to have that just plain old flexibility, set up little mini tracks, not high speed by any means, but just maneuverability type of situations. Coupled that with an exterior streetscape, and then some standalone buildings that can be utilized by all. That was kind of the base meat of the project, along with a small storage building next to the existing burn towers. There's a great need for some storage right now. A lot of storage is happening inside the burn tower, and we want to get that stuff out to allow the burn towers to be used to their full capability. And then there are some fire props in there that need some refurbishing after 7 years. They're hard on the material, so. That encompassed what we believe was the scope of work that makes sense for this project. And just want to talk a little bit about the site.
So we have Holloway Marsh to the north, which again acts as a sort of great buffer. That was one of the reasons why I imagine the building was originally located here. The odd shape of this site actually is left over from what we believe the construction of County Road 14. It was roundabouts at some point. And so that's why we have this kind of odd funnel shape here. We have St. Paul's Monastery to the south, and that is the closest neighbor, if you will, and you mentioned acoustical concerns, so that's something that we'll have to be cognizant of. And then we have this parcel of land which is currently owned by MnDOT. It's about 6.2 acres there. Yeah. And so we can see here, just looking at the extent of Holloway Marsh, and just and we've sort of approximated a 75-foot setback after our discussions with city staff, and sort of looked at the amount of buildable space here, where we're actually quite limited on that west side. So we had to work around the 6.2 acres as far as the primary concept went.
I have a question about the MnDOT property.
Yep.
Have we approached MnDOT?
Yes, Chief Mondor has made contact, if you want to.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we have approached MnDOT through their, I forget the name of the department within the state, but they essentially have a process where they can convey land, which essentially allows us to purchase it. We're working through the mechanics of what that would look like, but we've taken the first steps and put it in their Office of Conveyance so that we can at least start to pursue the land if that becomes part of what we want to include in the project.
Because that seems to be really a good use of that MnDOT property. I've been out there. I don't see that there's anything going on there.
Abrams, it's been construction staging for other projects nearby, storage of dirt and snow in the winter. That's pretty much all it's been used for, and since I've been out at the site.
Okay. Councilmember Cave.
I had the same question. Do we know when MnDOT is going to get back? I mean, this project seems. Do we know any? Do we know anybody that we can?
Yeah, Councilmember Kay, it is a long process to convey land through the state. So we're looking at about 12 to 14 months from when we made contact in November for them to put the land into conveyance. There's certainly other things at play that, as staff, that we will pursue and consider about conversations with people that may be higher up in MnDOT and or our elected officials. I have an item on the council agenda for you this evening that will help us navigate some of those things. So at this point, we've started all the processes that we need to start to get the ball rolling and have planned for different options in phasing of the site in a way that we can incorporate that and try to pursue that land in a way that's makes financial sense for the state and for the city.
It seems that that may be something that we want to talk to our own legislators about and see if they could assist us in having further discussions about that property and how it could be better used for something like this.
I agree with you, Mayor Abrams. I think, especially when we start to have the conversations of pursuing state funding through the bonding process, to what extent do we want to have money pass hands to another state entity to fund a project that's ultimately going to benefit the region? That's where it's beyond, I think, staff's decision-making at the state, and we'd have to involve our elected officials to help us navigate how they want to pursue that.
Okay,
Right.
good. Thank you.
Great questions and perfect lead in here to the next part. We did look at the site early on, 3 different ways, kind of looking at just being confined to the site that is owned by Maple Grove, and then what would that maybe look like in the future if that was expanded to the MnDOT site in the middle image. And then we just kind of flipped it around and said, does it make any sense to start with the MnDOT site for the project and then expand in the future, just as a way of looking at all options. And then we developed basically the version, the expanded site boundary option further.
Yeah, so, looking at the site plan for option A, we have, excuse me, we have the primary building up in the northeast corner there. The primary parking is number 7 right there. So as you would come in that main entry, you essentially are greeted by a central commons area. That's where locker rooms are, that's where the break area is, that's where all of these things sort of revolve around. They're all kind of spokes on a wheel. So to the north and east of that is the classroom area, and then the wellness support space beyond that. So it's isolated, it's close, it's got the ideal sort of exposure to nature as part of sort of the healing process, if you will. And then to the south, we have number 5 there, which is our ranges, which are more or less also kind of doing dual duty as helping to screen the interior of the site from all the other activities that may be going on there. And then number 4 is the reality-based training, and we've located that strategically. So as Todd had mentioned earlier, we can begin to tie that into the rest of the functionality of the site and increase the amount of flexibility that we have when we're training first responders.
And then the ability to expand to the south for that area of the expanded exterior reality-based training spaces and the exterior driving pads. Just image here of kind of what that might look like from a 3-dimensional aspect, not getting into the architecture, but just kind of a bird's eye view of this. And again, that front door is in the corner of the facility, but again, that range is acting as a screen for what's happening beyond, because there's a lot of commotion that can happen, and we want to make sure that the neighbors are, and the passerbyers aren't seeing that. The buildings on the left can either can be smaller commercial buildings that are representative of a commercial type building you'd see, maybe a strip mall or something, and some residential areas, and then creating kind of a secondary streetscape that's separate from the driving pad is the thought process, and that unless you're so keeping the public kind of in the right realm, there's a gate that would separate between the 2 buildings to make sure that there's nobody walking into a scenario. So
we can build upon what we discussed further. Really looking at, again, the commons area in the blue, where we're seeing all of those sort of functions. That's kind of the heart of the building there. And then as kind of spokes on the wheel, we have the classroom area and those associated support spaces. Earlier, highly flexible classrooms, subdividable into 2 or 3 for a variety of group sizings. The wellness area on the extreme northeast, where we have treatment rooms, which might be touchdown spaces for mental health care providers or physical therapy or anything else that might be needed. And then we The sort of orange, reddish orange, we'll call it. To the south is those two ranges. You can see the longer 50-yard one and the shorter 35-yard. And then we have reality-based training, which is sort of the yellowy orange there, where, again, these things that we discussed about streetscape, flexible interior spaces, and really a lot of opportunities to combine and layer those trainings to better replicate real-life scenarios.
Then again, just mentioning the option B, if you will, was to see, does it make sense to, because the site on the south side is a little bit larger, we wanted to look at what that would look like if we started the main building down there. But in actuality, we feel like the option A is actually a better layout, gives more opportunities for larger pavements for the firefighters and whatnot. And it just makes sense to start with the piece of property you already own. But we wanted to turn every stone over, so. Just want to get into costs now. We have a couple preliminary numbers in red, but they're in the right ballpark. We're closing in on some of those costs, but the main building and parking lot and site development costs are about $25 million, plus about another $3.5 million for some of those expanded options, if you will. Construction costs of about $28 million. The graphic on the right is very tiny print, but there's 40 or so numbers that make up what is we call soft costs, and that's coming to about $5.3 million on a $28 million construction cost. So we're at $34 million of construction of the whole site all in. Also wanted to talk about operating costs, because this is the thing that'll come back to you every year, year after year. We did a comparison of different facilities in the area and looked at what their operating costs are, what their revenues and expenditures are, looking at the South Metro Public Safety Training Center in Edina, North Metro Range in Maple Grove, and the Hero Center in Cottage Grove as examples of their budgets. And we extrapolated some of that information along with our history to come up with a preliminary, very preliminary operating costs, assuming about $630,000 of revenues and expenditures. We had to make some assumptions in this, but we wanted to have a preliminary understanding of what this could be. We want to make sure that they zero out, so you're not paying in every year on top of things. But our assumptions were that there was the three main JPA agencies, and again, these are just pure assumptions right now, along with 6 other agencies within the area, compromising the revenues of this project to offset the expenditures, along with some what we call users that come when they want to come and use the facility on a per needed basis. So again, assumptions made, but based on history of other projects, history of talking to different folks around town. So no commitments here, and obviously that is subject to real change as a project would move forward. And then schedule, lastly, our next steps are to confirm our direction here today and develop a legislative strategy for the upcoming legislative session. We do want to try to get the pre-design report completed by the 24th of January. We're in the works of that right now and feeling that's doable. And the reason for that is there's a 2-week review period that the state will take a look at the pre-design and make sure everything's in order. And then we can get that finalized before the legislative session starts February 12th. If everything goes well, and there was money received, there's a potential of starting schematic design in July of some time is what we're assuming right now. And again, these are all assumptions, but just a general timeline, we could look at completing design just after the first of the year, going into the next year, and then hitting the ground in construction in spring of 24. Spring of 25. And then about a year and a half by the time you're fully open and ready to go for July or June of '26. So I'll open up for any final questions or comments or concerns.
This is incredibly exciting. During my time on the council, I have seen the calls that our department gets have become much more complex. And I can think just off the top of my head of some of the calls where fire, EMS, police were all working together. And at this point right now, they don't have a place where they can all train together. And so this is something I think that is absolutely needed. And it's incredibly exciting to me that we're this far, and I am optimistic that we're going to get money from the legislature this year, because this isn't just good for the East Metro. This is really a regional asset, looking at the number of departments, the 24 or 25 departments that, come and use what we have right now. And it's my understanding there is nothing like this in the metro area. And I especially like the feature of being able to bring in social workers, because they need some place to be able to train with public safety as well. And we just don't have that. And I think that this really professionalizes. I mean, we've already got a great public safety department, but this takes it to the next level, that they all train together. They will work together so much better in some of these really critical calls and I think our officers will be certainly safer because of it, because they have actually trained virtually. They've trained in different scenarios, and this is just incredibly exciting to me. So I think this is great. Councilmember Cave.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a vision. It's blowing my mind what you guys did and what to put together. The stuff that I wasn't even thinking about. I'm just so impressed, and the fact that you're bringing the three groups together is great. But I want to talk about the wellness part too. I just think that is such a big thing out there, all around the United States. It's just the wellness of people, and people don't realize how much goes into public safety jobs and what they see and what they, bring home, and they have families and they go through a lot, the men and women, and it's just that part of it I'm really excited for. And this is really exciting. So I'm excited for both of you too. Also, yay.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Thank you. So supporting and developing quality training is a passion of mine. I think really good training is really important. I'm also excited about this for our community. So ultimately, I support this project, and I just want to highlight there's a need for, I feel, a greater evaluation of and data collection, specifically through the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services and the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And it's tied to consistent standards for trainings across the country. And so when we think about community policing, I just want to keep in mind that 1 in 4 Black adults have disabilities nationally, and at least 1 1/3 of the use of force incidences nationally are people with disabilities. And also the majority of our unhoused community members are usually people with disabilities. And so so I'd like just please keep those community members in mind, and the value of inclusion at every level of training. And we can really shape public safety into what Maplewood should and be.
Those are all great points, and we've had some really great discussions about all of that. I believe this is Chief Beardman, Chief Mondor have been, leading the way on making sure that this is about wellness too, and about inclusivity. So it's very exciting for us as well.
I don't see any other lights on, so thank you very much for the presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Chief Mondor and Public Safety Director Beardman, for your leadership in this. I think this is really an exciting prospect, and I'm looking forward to what we can accomplish here in Maplewood. So thank you, everyone. We have concluded our agenda for tonight, and what we can do right now is I will adjourn us. We'll be back at, let's take 5 minutes. We'll be back in